Hey guys, welcome back to the next video in our web scraping in Python series. In the last video, we learned about requests and how request library deals with the information it is getting and work for a user. Now, when we send a request via request library, we get two responses. And when we actually send a request to a web server using our browser also sends some information. So in this video, we're going to see practically what information browser is sending to the server and how a web scraper manipulate that information in order to get rid of the servers which actually block a particular browser in order to extract information. So let's begin with the theory and then we will move to the practical of this. So just to recall back, we actually send a request in the previous video, and now after sending this request we got two things as a result. One was response object, where we actually had all the information collected, that is response object we got. And then there were header attributes. Header attributes, I'll show you practically what they mean, but if you remember, we use content type. So that is what header attributes means, and there's more detail to it. So what actually happen is these header attributes are basically data structure, and this type of data structure can act as library and not case sensitive also, which means we can actually write down uppercase and lowercase letter and get the same result. I'll show you practically how does it happen. I'll just write here which so data structure which can act as a. Now browser also send requests to servers which I mentioned. So I'll just write browser, and this browser send request to server. Now this request is in the form of user agent. And what does it mean? That if I change the user agent, I won't get blocked. A particular server which is blocking a particular type of browser will get unblocked if I change my user agent. Okay. This user agent which browser is sending is in the form of header. And we already discussed here about that header attributes are actually something which can act as a dictionary and are not case sensitive. So yeah, this is the theory behind it, and let's move to my desktop and see practically how this is done. So let's go to my desktop first. All right, so what I will do, I will open VS Code and we will start coding now and see this practically. So I just open for a Python file, and I'll first of all I'll save this file. So I'll just write Control S, and then I have to give a name to this file. So I'll say user agent. Just okay. Now what I'll do, I'll write down the previous codes which we were using. So I'll just import the request library first. So import request, and now I'll write URL which we need to access. So I'll just take the URL back from the browser. Post to script. Yeah. So this URL, and we come back here. Just increase the size for you, and now we will add the URL here. So this is what we have covered in the previous classes, and then what we did, we actually asked for the response function. So I'll just say request library to get this URL. Now now what usually we do is we check whether this status code is working or not, but we have done already twice or thrice in the previous videos, and we know in this sequence only that the codes work. So instead of doing that, let's ask what type of response object we have created. So what I'll do, I'll write print. I'm pretty sure that this is working. That's why we are not doing it in this class, just to save some time for this video. So now I'll run it and you see. So it says request model response. This is the class of the response function which we are actually sending. I'll just close this and I'll comment this out. Okay. Now what? For response headers, we also have codes. We want to find out what actually the header this request is using. Like we are sending a request. So we discussed in the theory, we will be actually getting headers. So I'll just write print spawn headers. Now what this will do, this will tell us what actually headers it is using. Okay, this should be not, this should be dot. So let me correct this one. Yeah. Okay, now I'll run it and we will see headers coming up. Ideally they should, yeah. So we got headers. Now these are the headers which this request which we have sent to course to script, we are sending these headers. I'll just copy this part, content type. This is one of the header. And now we will see how exactly these headers behave. So basically, I told you that in the theory part that this header can act as a dictionary, and this dictionary is also not case sensitive. So I'll show you in both ways, and let me comment this out first. Right. Now we'll write print response dot headers, and because we are using content type, so I am going to write content type here. I just copied it earlier so I can directly paste it, and now we'll see what comes. We will run it again, and if you see, it is telling me the character, the attribute of this header. Similarly, because I said it is not case sensitive, so if I copy this entire thing as well as comment this out and add a new frame with the probably which is not basically appropriate, let's see. So if it is not case sensitive dictionary, then I should be getting the same results. Let's see whether I was right or not. So if you see here, we again got character UTF-8 because the responses we are sending, their attributes as well as the dictionary, they are case sensitive. Now, just to let you know more, if I actually when set up this response request get URL instead of this, what happens when basically some browser are getting blocked, then web scraper usually change the user agent. Where does user agent come up? So when we are sending a request to get a URL, here only we can add headers. What does these headers do? They actually are user agent, and in user agent, okay, this should be in double commas, yeah. And these user agent can be different browsers. So just to mention here, I can say Mozilla 5.0. Now, what does it do? It knows that these are the headers which I am actually going to look for. So even if I run this, okay, even if I run this, it won't do anything different from whatever result we were getting earlier. Because, so even if I show you, like, even if I delete this one, and instead of this, I'll run this one. We have deleted the first one and we are running this, and I'll just say print REST. So then also my response is getting worth. I am getting 200, as well as the responses which we were getting earlier for UTF will not change. And why they won't change? So just to show you, if I put here headers, see, they are coming similar. Now why they are coming similar? Because at this point of time we have this URL, and the what request library is doing, it is fetching this URL only, and it is not working on the user agent part. It is ignoring this. Now similar to this case, what actually happens is, when we actually try to send some request via our browser also send some information to the servers. So just to show you, just coming back to web browser back, and here I'll show you what exactly my browser is sending when I am actually opting to open any website, probably Instagram, CourseToScript, YouTube. It sends this information. So for finding out that information, you just have to go to http://bean.org and headers. So give me a second here. So my browser sends this information whenever I try to browse any website. It says I'm using Brave. This is my user agent. This is my Amazon Trace ID. And this is what exactly my whole information look like. These are the headers my browser always sends. Similarly, when I try to visit any website, or any website I try to scrape via request library, my request library also sends some headers. So I'll just show you what exactly it sends. Let's go back to our VS Code. And in our VS Code, now what we will do, we will actually add the URL we just copied. So this time now what I'm telling basically to the request library that I want to access this URL and you should send a request to this URL. So I'll just run it. Okay. Now what I'll do, I'll actually ask it to print my response object, whatever it is getting, as a dictionary. So this is the way actually to get your result in a better format. I'll just ask directly for the JSON file. So this is my response object and I'm asking a JSON file. Now what it will do, it will actually give me the dictionary, and it will. So if you remember, just to show you back, this is what the information my browser was sending when I tried to actually visit http://bean.org. This was the headers my browser was sending, and when actually I visited it again via my request library, this is what it is sending. Accept encoding, host, http bin, user agent, Python request. So if you see user agent here, and then the Amazon Trace ID also. Similarly, user agent here was Mozilla, Windows, Trace ID. So basically, this information was generated via my browser. My browser wanted the server to recognize it. Similarly, when I am trying to access the same website via my request library, it is sending some headers to it, and these were the headers it is using. So both of them are sending some headers in order to get a particular URL. Now what web scraper do, whenever they get blocked by a particular server, they change the user agent, and this is how they bypass it. Now what I can also do is I can find out what is actually generating this request. So I have created a response and I have got the dictionary. Now I can also find out what function I use in order to create this response. So like I'm going back and forth. First of all, I am sending a request, then I am actually getting the result. And now I am seeing the result. I want to know what actually caused this. So if I go back and I'll check, then I'll write. So it says user agent Python request is sending this and is accept encoding, deflate, accept, connection, keep alive. So if I show you again, my browser was sending headers. Similarly, we see my request library was sending headers. Now, in the end, what we see, who was sending these headers? Then we find our user agent was Python request library version 2.310 was sending these headers. So yeah, I think that is all for this video. I see you in the next one.